One time a man invited Jesus to his home for Sunday dinner, and while they were sitting around the table talking, Jesus said to his host, "You know, when you invite somebody to a big dinner or supper, you shouldn't invite those from the office or from your civic club or from your own church. No, especially you shouldn't invite your rich neighbors. If you do, they'll probably pitch a big party and invite you, and y'all just be swapping favors with one another. But when you have a big supper, or big reception of some kind, you should invite the people whom everybody else has forgotten. The poor fella back in the alley, the crippled man who sits in the park every day, the invalid down the street. Since they don't have any way of paying you back, you'll be doing it for just the sheer joy and love of it." And then one of the deacons sitting there with him put his drumstick down and said, "Ain't it wonderful to eat bread in the kingdom of God?" And then Jesus told a story that might have gone something like this. One time, a very fine man decided to give a big Thanksgiving dinner and invite in all the good folks of the town. Being a broad-minded man, he invited the Catholic priest, the Jewish rabbi, the Baptist preacher. The mayor and other big dignitaries were sent special invitations. Then on the menu were all kinds of imported delicacies, caviar, champagne, turnip greens. Might even had, little mint julep would go along with it. Then the man hired the grand ballroom of the Wilton Hotel and decorated it with the UN flag and flags from other nations to symbolize his love and respect for all lands. The placemats had quotations encouraging men to bend every effort toward peace and toward the common good for all mankind. Then behind the speaker's table was a huge picture showing people leaving their narrow circles and walking together in the joy of an ever-enlarging fellowship. Then, a few hours before the dinner, a very prominent citizen who was a member of the Jack Ash Society happened to drop in, and he was absolutely flabbergasted to see so much bald evidence of communism. He ran out right quick and got on the ball, got to work, and before long, the good man's phone was ringing. "Hey, Charlie, this Bill. Say, Charlie, I really do appreciate your invitation to that dinner, fella, but, you know, well, Charlie, I just bought a piece of land, a real chunk of America, my native land, this free land. And I just want to keep my eye on it, Charlie. You reckon you can give me a rain check? Maybe I can make it some other time." Well, a little later, the phone rang again. "Hey, Charlie, Sam. You know, I was planning to come to your dinner today, but I went to the auction up there in Macon, and I bought me 5 yoke oxen today. And you know how it's been on us used ox dealers lately. There's been a lot of real stiff competition, and I feel like I'm going to have to go around out there this afternoon and polish up those hooves and groom those horns and comb those tails, and get those yokes of oxen all ready for the big sale we have in tomorrow. Now, Charlie, I really do appreciate you inviting me to that big dinner, fella, but these after Thanksgiving sales, we just got to make them go, and could you excuse me, fella? Maybe I can come next year." Well, then a few minutes later, there was another call. Hello, Charlie. This is Bobo. I've been trying to get you but your line's been busy, man. Been a lot of folks talking to you, huh? Yeah. Well, about that dinner invitation, Charlie. You know, I'm married, and you know how it is. My wife just said to me, Bobo, you ain't going. And well, that settles that, Charlie. Bye. With the dinner less than an hour off, Charlie was boiling mad. He wondered if the priest and the rabbi and the preacher were going to have some unexpected church meetings to go to. Who would come? Charlie was worried and he was uneasy. Then a little while he called his butler. Listen, Hammond, it looks like these good folks of this town are scared to take a chance on peace and brotherhood and goodwill. I want you to run out right now, up and down the streets, and all through the alleys, and tell the poor people, all the poor people you see, to come on to my dinner. Tell them to come just like that. Don't get dressed. Tell them to come on in. We're having it down. Tell them we're having it down there at the Wilton, and I want them all to come in there and let's have a big Thanksgiving dinner. Well, a little later, Herman came running back all out of breath. I got 'em, sir. I got the people, got the poor people, all the little people. But I noticed when I got 'em all in there was still a few places left. What you want me to do by them? Herman, I want you to get out, run down Sycamore Street, swing back up through Oak. Get these folks out there and fill up that ballroom. Fill it up with all these poor people. 'Cause I know that they are not too proud and they are not too scared to sit together with their brothers from all over this city. And if any of those good folks show up, Herman, you just tell 'em there ain't no more room. One of Jesus' disciples was named Simon Bar-Jonah. And with a name like that, no wonder Jesus had mercy on him and decided to change his name from Simon to Peter, or the word means rock. Now, his last name was Bar-Jonah, and that means son of John, or John's son, or we'd say Johnson. So this man's name was really Rock Johnson. His brother was named Andrew, or Andy, and I imagine that Jesus called Rock and Andy Johnson the Johnson brothers. Well, anyway, one day Rock had a question for Jesus, and he said to him, Master, how many times should I forgive my brother when he does me dirt? 7 times? And Jesus said to him, 7 times? No, Rock. I want to tell you, you should forgive him 70 times 7. Now, if you forgive a man that many times, that's just bad enough to get in the habit of it. Well, we don't know really why Rock asked this kind of question, but we can guess maybe it was because he just had a big hassle with the Zebedee boys, Jim and Jack. Jesus called them the sons of thunder, and I imagine they had a little lightning to go along with it, too. He could have gotten a hassle with them over the new fishing gear, or maybe whose fault it was because somebody left the boat untied and it got away and they had to swim out in the sea to get it. Well, anyway, they had Rock raises a question with Jesus. I've forgiven him now 6 times, and if I forgive him one more, you reckon it'll be all right just to really bean him one good? Jesus then said to Rock, Rock, let me tell you a story. And he told him something that went perhaps something like this. There was a man who, we'll call him Ben Logan, who went to the banker to borrow some money. Went in and said, Mr. Ed, me and my wife, we've been doing a little thinking, a little talking, planning about our future out here, and we about decided that the only way we can hold on to our little place is to add a few cows to our herd, maybe buy that little farm that's going up for sale over next to us, and we need us another tractor. John Deere got a special sale on down there, and while we're at it, we'd need a hay bale or two, and all of those things gonna take quite a little bit of money. You reckon you could help us out? Mr. Ed said, well, Ben, I don't know. It's going to take an awful lot of collateral. You got a good bit, and how much you thinking about? What are you thinking in terms of? Well, Mr. Ed, we thought, well, somewhere around about $25,000. $25,000? Well, Ben, that's really going to take a lot of collateral, man. You Well, I suppose now if you're willing to mortgage a home place and put up all the rest of your herd and your machinery, I guess maybe we can work that out. We'll let you have it. So the papers were signed and Ben got the money. And he went out and bought his machinery, got him some new cows, invested the money very carefully and wisely. But somehow or another there was a late freeze that spring and he had to plant his corn, peanuts over. The cows he bought, some of them were infected with brucellosis, and that spread through his whole herd, and he lost a lot of calves. Then a little later, drought came on, and just as his corn was tasseling, his corn didn't turn out very good, so when fall came, Ben was really more in the hole than he'd ever been before. He really did hate to go see Mr. Ed. One day he walked in the bank, his head hanging down. Mr. Ed saw him. Come in, Ben. Ben went into the office. Mr. Ed said, Ben, I've been looking for you, man. Where you been? Your note's a month overdue, fella. Yes, I know about that, Mr. Ed. I've been kind of just get up courage enough to come see you. You know about the drought we had and about that late freeze. Yeah, Ben, I know about that, but that's no excuse. I guess I'm just gonna have to foreclose on you. No, Mr. Ed, don't do that. Give me a little bit more time. Things gonna be different next year. Give me another year, Mr. Ed. I can't even pay you a dime this year, but I believe I can make it go next year if you give me a little more time. Mr. Ed thought a while and finally said, okay, Ben, you have had it mighty tough, and I'd hate to push you too hard. We'll just let the whole $25,000 go. You won't even have to pay any interest on it. Thank you, Mr. Ed. God bless you. Thank you so much. Well, Ben left, and on his way home, he happened to remember that he had a tenant that borrowed some money from him back in the summer. He drove up to the tenant's house. Fellow's name was Ruck Holman. He pulled up in front of Ruck's house and blew the horn. There was some little old chickens running around the yard, and they started squawking right under the house. Little old pigs scramping around. They went squealing toward the barn. A few minutes, Ruck showed up at the front door. Two little kids, one on hanging to each leg. Ben said to him, come out here, Ruck. I want to talk with you. Ruck came out and said, Ruck, you know that $93.61 you owe me? Yes, sir, Mr. Ben. I remember that. I had to borrow it when my old lady went to the hospital. Yeah, that's it, $93.61. Now, Ruck, I need that money, and I need it right now. I mean, right now. Well, Mr. Ben, I just ain't got it. You ain't paying me but $5 a day, and my old lady, she been sick, and me and my children, I got 7 children. We ain't had nothing but cornbreads and collard greens to eat for weeks, but still I can't get ahead. Ruck, I said I wanted that money Saturday. And I mean this Saturday. And with that, he drove off, and Ruck went back inside, sat down in his old rickety chair beside two neighbors who dropped in to visit him, and they all three sat there for a little while, staring into the fire. The two neighbors then got up and got in the old car and drove away. They went on into town, went to the bank, asked to see Mr. Ed. They went in and said, Mr. Ed, we don't mean to be meddling in nobody's business now, but we were just over at Ruck Holman's house, and the man he works for come by here. He was really mad. He come by and he jumped all over Ruck, and he told Ruck that if he didn't pay up that $93.61 by Saturday, he'd go use an axe handle on him, beat him up, and call Mr. Sheriff McDaniel down there and have him put into jail. And Ruck told him about how he'd had sickness in the family and everything, but it didn't seem to make no difference. And we were just wondering, Mr. Ed, uh, could could you let us have $93.61 so we could let Ruck have it? Well, the banker reached for the phone and dialed a number. Is that you, Ben Logan? Yeah? Well, you get right over here right away. I want to talk with you. Yes, sir. Come right on over. I'll be here. And Ben walked in. Mr. Ed said to him, Ben, you didn't have the money to pay that $25,000. You didn't even have the money to pay the interest on it. You pled and begged with me to forgive you, and I forgave you. I put off the whole thing. We postponed that note for another year. And then what'd you do? Soon as you left here, you went right out of here and you put the heat on a man who owed you $93.61. Don't you think you should have been just as kind to him as I was to you? Ben, your note is overdue. All of your property is going to be put up for sale the first Tuesday in next month. And that's the way it is, Jesus said. The spiritual father will treat you just that way unless you forgive your brother from your heart. One day, when a big crowd of people were following Jesus, somebody yelled out to him, Hey, mister, how about making my brother divide up the inheritance with me? And Jesus turned to him, Say, fella, has anyone appointed me to be an umpire over your financial squabbles? And then he said to the crowd, You all really stay on your guard and watch out for all kinds of greediness, because just being rich can't make a man out of you. And then he told them a story which today might have gone something like this. The fields of a certain rich man produced abundantly. Now, we don't know the name of this man. We'll just call him Sam. Some of us might even want to call him Uncle. All right. Uncle Sam's fields produced an abundance of corn and cotton and peanuts and soybeans. He'd been working on these fields for a long time. He bought them when he and his wife were young. They'd worked hard. Many a day they'd gone out at the crack of day, do up the chores, spend those long hours plowing, hoeing cotton, trying to make a big crop so as to pay off the mortgage, buy some furniture, get them a new car, put the kids through school. They even find time to go to church every Sunday. There were times, too, at the close of the day when he and his wife would walk out on the hill back of the house and watch the sun paint its beautiful farewell for the day. They'd stand there and watch it silently, and sometimes she'd hold his hand and say, "It's pretty, ain't it?" And he'd say, "It's pretty, honey. Sure is. It's real pretty." He even found time to hunt arrowheads with his kids, to stalk with them the elusive whippoorwill. And then there were times when he'd gather them in his lap and read to them from Winnie the Pooh. But as time went on, these moments became rarer. The county agent was there to talk with him about liming his land, contouring, strip farming, and soil building legumes and all that kind of stuff to make him more productive. And then there were all of these big stream of machinery salesmen who were besieging him with all kinds of labor-saving and profit-making equipment. Increasingly, Uncle Sam became like the machines which dominated his life. He had little feeling anymore, but what did it matter? He was more productive, and better than that, he was making more profit. Long ago, his little corn crib had given way to row on row of steel grain bins. His barns now were bulging warehouses. His problem now was not how to make it, but where to store it. True, he'd heard that there were some hungry people in other lands that were starving, but it was their own fault. They were lazy and ignorant and shiftless and undeserving. They hadn't grubbed and mucked and scraped and slaved like he had. They didn't deserve any better. No, indeed. No, sir. He wouldn't share his hard-earned goods with them folks. Grain, you know, must be kept in steel bins, not in hungry bellies. Then one night he looked over his auditor's report and his income tax returns, and he was quite pleased with how things were going. He said to himself, "Sam, you old codger, you got enough stuff to rev it up for the rest of your life. Put your land in the soil bank, man. Get a government loan on your grain. And then, boy, head for Florida. Sam, you're gonna recline, dine, wine, and shine." Then God said to him, "You nitwit, on this very night all these things are possessing your soul. You don't own them. They own you. And all this stuff you've piled up, whose is it really?" And so, this poor, rich farmer, he was struck with the awful realization that he would continue the rest of his life in bondage to the things that he had enslaved himself to all along. And that's the way it is, says Jesus, with a man who sets his heart on money and not on God. During the last days of Jesus' life, as he approached Jerusalem, which was the capital of the country, there was an air of expectancy and excitement among his disciples. For several years now, he'd been talking to them about his kingdom. He'd taught them to pray for it. He'd taught them to expect it. He'd taught them to seek it above everything else. He'd taught them to sacrifice all that they had in order to get it. But when would it come, and how would it come? These were the things that were burning in the hearts of his students. So now at last, as they neared the capital, it was natural that they should think that this was it. Jesus would move in, call down legions of angels from heaven, drive out the high priest and Pilate the governor, and then he'd set himself up as both priest and king. By his miraculous supernatural power, the kingdom of God would now be established on earth. They could just hardly wait for him to swing into action. To stop this false thinking on the part of his disciples, Jesus told them a story. He said, it's like a man from a very aristocratic family who was going away for a long time to be given a top-level government appointment. He decided that while he was gone, he would turn over all his personal business to his workers. So he called them into his office one day and divided up his assets, giving to each according to what he thought was a man's ability. To one of them he gave $50,000. To another one he turned over $20,000, and to another one he turned over $10,000. He said to them, now y'all do business with this money while I'm gone. Then he started packing up. Now, while he's packing up, it might be well for us to kind of check up and see make sure that we understand the story so far. The aristocratic man is obviously Jesus himself. The workers are his followers, whether as individuals or as groups, such as churches. The huge sums of money are Jesus' priceless ideas. So in effect, Jesus is saying, look, fellas, you think I'm going to come floating down from the sky with the angels by my side to set up my kingdom on earth? Nothing of the sort. For 3 years I've been turning over to you the currency of the kingdom, my teachings, my ideas, which are nothing less than God's truth. I gave you a whole bag of invaluable ideas in the Sermon on the Mount. I've taught you the ways of peace. How much is that worth to you? I've showed you how to be brothers. Isn't that of value? And I've given you a way of life that would make you whole, mature men. Who would have enough to buy that? So, fellas, I've given to you the stuff that the kingdom is made of. Now y'all get busy. All right, the fella's packed up now, and he's gone away, and by this time the workers have got the money, and they've gone out and started to work. The first one used his $50,000 to go into the real estate business. He bought up a little apartment house down the way and sold it, made a nice little profit on it. Then he bought up a little piece of farmland out, sold it a week or two later, and made a pretty good profit off of that. Bought another little piece. He lost something on that, but he was a pretty good trader, and by buying pretty wisely and selling shrewdly, he managed to pile up a real nice profit for his boss. Now, the worker with the $20,000, he decided to set up a little radio and TV shop with his money. And by working long hours, getting his wife to come in, help him test the tubes and the capacitors and all that kind of stuff, he was able to make a right good little bit of profit. Now, the worker with the $10,000, he decided to play it safe. So he carefully wrapped up his money in last week's issue of the America's Times Recorder. Then he put it in a great big old polyethylene plastic sack. And then one day when nobody was looking, he went out in his flower bed and he dug him a hole and he buried it and covered it over real nice and planted petunias. Well, after a long while, the man returned once again and called the workers into his office. He said to them, "Well, how'd y'all make out?" The first one came up and said, "Pretty good, sir, pretty good. Your $50,000 is now $100,000. Excellent, excellent, man. You did a good job. And because you've done so well, I'm going to make you head of the whole Southern Division." Good going, fella. How about you, man? The next second fella came up. He said, "Well, I ain't made as much, but I made as big a percent return. I did the best I could, and your $20,000 has now become nigh on to $40,000. Fine, fine, very fine. I think I'm going to put you in charge of the Illinois and Indiana division." Then the third worker came up and he said, "Sir, I've worked for you long enough to know that you are very exacting. You expect a profit even on money that you haven't invested, and you expect dividends on unearned interest. So I was scared to risk losing even one penny of your money. So I buried it. I buried it in my backyard in my little petunia patch. Now, I haven't lost anything. I just dug it up. I heard you was coming the other day. I dug it up, canned it all out, and it's all, every cent of it. I ain't stole a penny. I ain't lost a penny. Every bit of that, just like you get. I canned it out. It's $10,000 to the penny. And here it all is in the sack." Then the boss said to the man, "You low-down, ornery scoundrel, you. You knew that I was a hard-hearted taskmaster, expecting profits and dividends even before they come due. So why didn't you at least put my money in the bank where, even though it didn't earn 100% like these other fellas, I could have at least got 4 or 5% on my investment?" Now, while that poor fella is searching for an answer, let's see if we are still getting the meaning of this story. As Jesus' workers, we have been entrusted with His ideas, His teachings, His truth. Some of us will go to work, trading in the marketplaces, the fields, the factories, the classrooms. But some of us will wrap them up in philosophical dissertations and homiletical exhortations. We'll adorn them with horrendous anthems and pious prayers, and then we'll bury them in the baptismal pool and cover them over with theological fads and frustrations. And then we may say defensively, "Lord, I know your teachings are very precious, for they save my soul. But with so many communists and kluxers around these days, you surely wouldn't expect me to run the risk of losing my job and my influence, would you?" Well, back again now to the story. For the man, the big man, is speaking. "Take the 10,000 from him," he storms, "and give it to the man who has 100,000. And as for this useless worker, fire him and fling him outside the corporation, out into the darkness where people snap and snarl and eat each other up." And that's the way it is. He who does business with what he has will get even more. And he who won't do business will have even what he has taken away from him.